Okay, so in this video, I want to show you guys transparently how one of our info partnerships with one of our clients is actually losing money, and it's doing $220,000 a month in cash collected at this moment in time. I want to break you through the math, the numbers, the expectations that you should have if you're running, in terms of margins, which you should have if you're running a high ticket call funnel business for an info offer. I just want to pull back the curtain and give you a lot of transparency because what you're seeing on the outside, which is bloated revenue numbers, don't always correlate to dollars. In fact, sometimes it's not the complete opposite. So without further ado, let me just quickly kind of give you some context. Okay. So this was an info offer that we took on in January. You see their current media buyer was fired in December for 0.9 ROAS, spending 110 grand a month with really nothing to show for it. 0.96 return on advertising spend. They had kind of what I would call like a mid-ticket funnel, which just didn't really make any sense at all. And the business was, also had fixed expenses, had about $70,000 or $80,000 in fixed expenses. We came into the business and we cut their fixed cost expenses from about $80,000 a month to about $40,000 per month. It's actually we're up to about $40,000 a month right now in fixed expenses. But in January and Q1, we were only operating about $25,000 a month in fixed. So we cut their, fixed costs by, 60, 70%. And then we also outperformed in terms of efficiency of the marketing quite significantly. So you see we get our 4.6 ROAS out of the gate, 3.7, 4.4x, 2.9, 3.5, 3.5. We've basically been scaling from 40 grand a month to 60 grand a month. Then we were stuck at a plateau for about 60 grand a month for 3 months. And now we're stuck at like 150. We went from 100 to 200. Now we're back down. We're going to finish this month of July, like right at 160. Okay. But it's pretty exciting. It's a brand new info offer. Total since we took over the account. We literally took over the account in midnight of New Year's Eve. So we literally, that was like perfect calendar year is exactly when we started, perfect timestamp. So for this year, we generated about 700 grand off of 200 grand in spend roughly. Okay. Now let me just kind of break down what that looked like. Let's take June, for example. Okay. Now we're running a call funnel. Okay. We have the leads are scored and segmented into 5 buckets based on income. Okay. So we have 0 to 50K leads, 50K to 100 leads. And this is based on the income that they report. Only leads that are booking a call that have more than $100,000 in income are able to book a call. Everybody less than $100,000 a year is going to an auto funnel, low ticket downsell funnel. It's $197 price point. And then we take those low ticket buyers and we send them on the back end. Now, everybody that saw a high ticket sales pitch for an AOV of 5K, they get a 3K, 6K, 20K option, AOV of 5K. Everybody who saw that offer did not buy, which is about 60% of the sales calls. Okay, we're closing at about 30% on offers made, 35%. We send them to a cleanup webinar. We email our entire list once a month saying, hey, we're hosting a big Q&A. Hop on the call. I actually scripted this webinar. It's about a 2.5 hour webinar. We didn't have success writing cold traffic to it, but for email traffic, it's worked great. We have an earnings per attendee of about $150, and we add an additional about $15,000 to $20,000 a month just on that webinar. Okay, so let's kind of walk through kind of what happened in this month here. Okay, so we spent 54 grand, collected $178,000 on paid traffic, $15,000 on organic. We used a short form agency. What they will do is they'll take our personal brand, our influencer. Let's just say me as the influencer, right? Sam Sauter. It would create 20 different sub accounts because my personal account, right? The limit that I can post is probably 3 or 4 times a day before the algorithm starts punishing me. So what instead you can do is you can create 20 or 30 accounts like best moments of Sam Sauter wisdom, Sam Sauter insights, Sam Sauter fan page, right? Create all these different sub accounts. You post hundreds of pieces of short form content and that all drives traffic towards a low ticket funnel. Now this strategy is not very effective if you have a super high ticket product or service. In my opinion, you want to send that through it's great if you have a low ticket product or a mass market product. You really have no ability to control the reach. It's phenomenal for brand building. It's phenomenal for top of funnel awareness. It's something that we do because it increases the overall return on ad spend. We can't measure it precisely, but it's great for building top of funnel awareness, for building a brand and growing your following account very, very quickly, particularly if you're an influencer that has something interesting to say and you have lots of long form content that you can clip up and you can chop up. So that strategy has generated an additional 15K for us, bringing our total to $193,000 in cash collected for the month of June. Okay. Now we had $9,000 of refunds and we started doing one-on-one onboarding, hired a CSM to try and get that percentage down. It actually went up from 12% to 5%. We have no chargebacks, just refunds. We do have a money back guarantee that we honor, no questions asked. Cost per book call, $90, 150 calls were taken. Now this says a 26% show up rate. It's not really a 26, it's more closer to about 45% show up rate. For this month of July, this next month, we got it up to about 55%. So about a 20% improvement. But the reason this shows a lower number than it doesn't take in calls that are being canceled. Okay. So like we typically, we look at show up rate as the calls that are not canceled, the calls that showed over the calls that were not canceled, that were booked, right? So the true show up rate is about 45%, but I still pay attention to that ratio just in terms of total book calls, total calls that showed. It's about 26% you You can see here in July, it actually rose up to 38%. So I highlighted that green because it's actually a meaningful improvement there. Okay. The CPA is $1,600. Let's see where we are for the month of July, about $1,400. So right about that same point there. We have a 21% close rate on cold traffic. We've risen that up by that's actually about a 20% improvement to a 25% close rate. I'm going to talk to you about what we did there. Okay. July was a very important month for us. So show up rate improved by, call it 20%, close rate improved by 20% as a result of implementing a few key systems that I'm going to talk about. And then I also gauge here the liquidation percentage. So this is how much of the low ticket spend that was going below the 100K earners, how much of that do we get back? So we get about 30 cents back on the dollar before the high ticket kicks in. What the classic story, so we have about $40,000 fixed costs on this business. Ad spend, we have a 20% sales commission here that's auto calculating, and then we have a payment processor fee. So we collected about 50K in profit. So that is roughly about 25%, maybe 30% margins for last month. This fixed cost base, candidly, is too large. Okay, this is inclusive of our fee as the agency, where I'm getting paid about 14 grand on this account per month. Do a lot of management plus a little bit of piece of the upside on this. So my fee will be much smaller. We can get this to $500,000 to $1 million a month without expanding fixed cost base here. So we're going to see that margin improve. Okay. Now that was with a ROAS of 3.3 on the paid side. Okay. Now for this month, we have is effectively about a 10 to 15% drop in efficiency. Our paid ROAS is dropped to about 2.7. Okay. Now the story that we are just seeing in the data, and I wish I'd identified this sooner, is, wait for it, ad fatigue. And I can't believe it took me so long to see this, but it's ad fatigue. You can see the cost per qualified lead that we track went from 60 to 70 to 80 to 120. Now this influencer is not super cooperative in the fact that they're not super participative in filming ad creatives. Okay. Now us as the media buyers, as the marketers, we can work around that. You see, most of the time, the issue with ad fatigue is not actually the messaging is fatiguing. The markets are so unbelievably large that really it comes down to an issue of algorithmic fatigue. Algorithms themselves punish you if there's not new creatives being pushed at a regular frequency, more so than the actual messaging. Because oftentimes, for this is like, health and wellness, this is a non-financial driven offer. The market is enormous. Okay. We're a speck of dust, relative to the size of this total market. So we just need to basically add in more BeReal and uniquely edit the content that this influencer is giving us at a faster cadence to basically trigger the algorithm. It's an entirely new piece of creative, and the algorithmic fatigue will typically, as a result of that, start to fix itself. Now, sometimes we've seen what happens is we do that iteration cycle multiple times and the piece of the creative is still fatiguing. And that's when we have to go to the influencer and say, dude, for this business to grow, we really need you to participate more and film more creatives. Okay. So now I want to give you an idea of like how volatile and how stressful it is to run these businesses. So you can see here, last month we did well. We had like a 30% margin. This month we had a drop in ROAS by about 10%. Okay. So the profit margin is pretty slim. So we're only about 25K in profit, and we only have a couple days left of the month here at the time of this recording. You can see that we have about $40,000 per month of fixed expenses. Let's just call that $1,500 a day in fixed expenses. And then we are spending, call it an average of $2,000 a day. We're, on pace for just shy of 60 grand this month. So let's say our total exposure every single day is $3,500 a day. Okay. Now you can look over like these periods here. We do terrible over the course of weekends, like Friday through Saturday, Sunday. Our show rates, close rates are just so bad. Our sales team's not working transparently a ton. So what we're doing is we are scaling down, call it Thursday or Friday, by 10%, but we still want to grow the business overall. So we're scaling up about 30% on Sunday so that our best days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, are getting packed for calendars. So it's a net gain every single week of 20% week over week growth in ad spend. And you can do the calculations on that to know when you're going to hit your $1 million month. Okay. That concept was stolen by Jeremy Haynes, I think, by the way. I think I got it from him. Okay. But what you can see here is like, it's pretty crazy. Like we will go 72 hours without making a sale. Like a high ticket business model is very volatile. You'll see there's days where we make 25 grand in a day, 15 grand a day, 10 grand a day, and then we'll go 72 hours without making a sale. It's incredibly stressful. Okay. Now the reason I still love these businesses and I'm amazed by these businesses is they're fundamentally they're cash flow plays. They're arbitrages on the media. Unless you have a big back end and big LTV on the back end there, you can always pull back spend very quickly to cover your exposure. Unlike a fixed cost business, you incur real overhead, and the return on ad spend is always higher. As I'm scaling, I know that I'm competing in pockets of traffic that are colder and colder, and I kind of sleep a little bit better at night knowing that my ROAS will probably go back up to a 5 or a 6 if I pull spend a little bit, but I'm trying to increase I'm trying to basically scale, my spread compresses, and then I'm trying to do CRO optimization to widen the spread at larger scale, try and get a larger absolute amount of money, and I keep kind of that process of scaling up. ROAS drops, the spread tightens between my break-even ROAS and where I currently am, and then I just keep pushing up and up and up and up until I can, it's like a video game. I'm just trying to optimize towards the highest amount of absolute money. Now, the thing that we did that was pretty brilliant is we also got this from Jeremy Haynes, is we were running campaigns to target the people that booked calls. Okay, so after somebody books a call, they're added to a custom audience through a Zapier Zap, and they are held there for 14 days, and then they are removed from that. And that is like our hot list. What we do is we create 15 pieces of long form organic content, and we run engagement campaigns to those people that have booked that call. That email address gets added to the custom audience, 15 pieces of unique content. We own their entire newsfeed whilst they're in that crucial 14-day buying window when they're trying to make a decision on us. Okay, that has been historically our length of sales cycle there. And so we are trying to just hammer them and own their entire newsfeed during the duration of that sales process. Okay. We also track refunds. I don't think there's anything else here that you should be mindful of here. You can see here, we just started improving creative fatigue. We launched new split tests almost every single day. And it's difficult because there's a few confounding variables. So it's sometimes hard to attribute what's causing the root cause of the constraint in the business. Right now for us is primarily show rate and cost per qualified lead. You can see here, we had a little bit of improvement in cost per qualified lead over the last 3 days. So you can see here, we're at 127. And then these trailing 4 days before the change, we were at 143. So we made about a 10% reduction, but nothing meaningful. I wouldn't even say that's statistically significant. See where we were for this month. Okay, so we were at 126 for month 3 in terms of cost per qualified lead, 163 for month 2. Okay, so it's not trending in the worst direction. 107, 136. Okay, nothing really there that's standing out to me too much. I'm very happy with, so as a result of running these engagement campaigns to the people that are in the buying window, you can see show rate, that ratio from 26 to 38%. And you can see close rate has risen this month from call it 20% to 25%, which is really freaking good. I'm super stoked with our sales team manager at this moment in time, what he's doing with the rest of the team. You can see close rate is held pretty consistent here. We just had a couple 20K PIFs that came at the beginning of the month that are kind of artificially inflating our AOV here. We did pretty good in terms of revenue for this month. I think we did grow. So revenue's at 218 for the month. Yeah. So it's just synonymous in terms of revenue. It's just a little shy of $6,000 there. Only difference is we did a little bit better in terms of cash collect for last month than we did this month. Okay. But you can see it's, we have swings where we'll lose $10,000 in 72 hours. So it's pretty scary at times. Okay. Now, so you just have to be a really good operator. You have to know when to push hard, when to cut back. Goals to rip as much cash out of these fucking businesses. They have no enterprise value whatsoever, in my opinion, unless you have amazing revenue retention or something like that, which virtually no info businesses do. The goal is to rip as much cash as we can out of the business. Okay. If you have an influencer or somebody that has great organic top of funnel awareness, and you combine that with paid ads with the organic, that's when you can really start printing money. And, we're only at about a 3 or 4x return on advertising spend, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this back up to a 5x return on advertising spend on cold traffic once I can get my qualified lead numbers sub $80 where I was in June. Okay. So that, because show rate and close rate improved massively. Most of these businesses that are relying on cold ticket or high ticket book a call funnels, they're running on 10, 20, 30% margins is our experience. If you're on organic, you can have as high as 99% margins I've seen with organic, which is a great acquisition strategy depending on the brand. But the beautiful thing about paid ads, you combine the two. Paid ads, you can create a consistent, reliable, serve a certain amount of impressions that fills the sales team with X amount of qualified phone calls, versus with organic, you're gonna have huge fluctuations, upticks, and fluctuations in terms of the quality of the volume of the traffic, which makes it very hard for people to have stable and predictable jobs. So we like marrying the two. We like people that have good organics and then jumping in to help them with the paid side of things. Okay. One mistake that we also made transparently this month is we didn't cut the right closers soon enough. Okay. You can see here one of the most important metrics. Josh Troy has talked a lot about this in detail. I'm a big fan of Josh. I think he's an incredible operator and sales manager. I brought this entire sales team in house and did the management up until $100,000 a month, and then brought in a manager. But what he looks at is his guiding KPI is cost per book call and cash collected per book call per closer. Okay. So you can see here we had one closer that was not performing well at all. $40 cost per book call in the month of July. We had to cut it. We saw qualitative issues in the month of June, but they got a little bit lucky in their first month. You can see this rep here collected $50K in cash, and they had a close rate that was synonymous with the rest of the team. Okay. But they really truthfully just got a bit lucky. They got equal weighting. This is a far better closer actually in terms of skill set. They just got a little bit lucky in terms of priority, and then they got a few great leads. So that is just kind of a statistical anomaly that they did so well there, but qualitatively reviewing the calls, we kind of knew that unfortunately it was going to be an issue, and we should have cut this sooner, because you can see here, if we had redirected those same calls to that same closer, we'd we collected approximately about another 38 to 47,000, about 50 grand in revenue, 38, 40 grand in cash collected, just statistically. And this person would have activated and stayed longer because, you definitely want less reps making more money. You don't want to try and diversify yourself. So you can see here for the month of August, we are scaling massively. Okay, this influencer and this person that I'm working with on this deal, they want to do $500,000 to $1 million a month, and we think we're prepared to take them there. So we have to kind of blitz scale, and we really need to aggressively try and find other people to take these calls. But we're still prioritizing the top 2 reps that have been with us, and then these are 4 new reps that are kind of on a slow ramp up period, and we'll see how they do. So hope that was helpful. I don't think I have too much else to share. That's pretty much it. If you run an info consulting e-learning business or run a digital marketing agency where I help businesses grow, so that's high ticket coaching, consulting, service-based businesses. We've worked with info, we've worked with SaaS, we've worked with billion-dollar fund managers, we work with some of the biggest coaches, consultants, personal brands in the world. We're really good at meta ads, LinkedIn ads, PPC ads, Instagram ads. Okay, even TikTok ads, we're starting to get better at. That's not our main forte. You can see here's what all the, we have some pretty big names here, some industry leaders that share what their experience was like working with us. Okay, we're talking about people doing multiple 8 figures a year down there. So go ahead, check out and see what they said about us. Here's my background, all the businesses we worked with. We have Google ads, case studies, meta ads, case studies. If you're interested, you're doing more than 100 grand a month, book a call with our agency for our done for you solutions. And if you're doing less than 100 grand a month, we have done with you consulting options where I can kind of give you, I could just kind of consult with you in a less hands-on fashion to kind of help you take your business to the next level. Anyway, we make these videos just to give you kind of work publicly and show people what we do on a day-to-day basis. Maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not. Anyway, hope you found value out of this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.